to Israel. I have my colleague Abhishek live with us. Abhishek, what is the latest that we are getting to know? This is a two-day state visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Israel. A lot of important discussions to take place.
Well, yes, as state visits go, this is a particularly big one because the kind of buzz that India-Israel relationship generally creates. And it's a very strong strategic partnership that India has in West Asia. And there is a strong defense component going. So in that sense, the strategic partners are, and the two leaders are meeting at this level after some gap. Though, of course, there has been strong communication. In fact, Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Netanyahu have spoken 5 or 6 times in the last 8-10 months since the Pahalgam terror attacks. And the two leaders have been talking to each other frequently since the October 7, 2023 Hamas attacks in southern Israel. And that really gives you an idea of the kind of equation chemistry that exists between the two leaders. The last time Prime Minister was in Israel, and first the build-up, Prime Minister Netanyahu himself announced the state visit, and he has spoken about it twice, once in his cabinet meeting, and it's a bipartisan support that India really enjoys, and Prime Minister Modi specifically enjoys in Israeli politics and governance. So we have posts coming in from the Speaker of Israel, from the Leader of Opposition of Israel. We have seen the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, which Prime Minister would be addressing later in the evening on landing in Tel Aviv and traveling to Jerusalem. And the Knesset was last evening lit up in the colors of Indian flag, colors of India. And we have seen Israeli media really splashing front pages with Prime Minister Modi's visit. So in that sense, I think the expectation is huge. Also remember, just yesterday, first round of FTA talks have taken place between the two sides in New Delhi as Israel's Commerce Minister traveled, as a delegation led by senior level officialdom traveled to New Delhi and met with the Commerce Ministry officials and counterparts. So I think all eyes on going to be on Tel Aviv and Jerusalem as Prime Minister lands in a couple of hours, Hina. And also let's not forget the backdrop in which this visit is panning out, the kind of tensions that have been building up insofar as the United States move on Iran is concerned, with the kind of build-up of a war machine of the United States we have seen in the Gulf in the last fortnight or so. It's likely that we might see some military action in that backdrop. West Asia, typically, if you look at the last 2 years, has been a very unstable geography with all the wars panning out. And I think the geopolitical dimension of this visit cannot also be missed. So I think very important visit panning out. If you can just give an idea to the viewers as to how the Prime Minister's engagements go once he lands in Tel Aviv, he's going to be received in all likelihood by Prime Minister Netanyahu himself and at the David Ben Gurion airport, and then they travel to Jerusalem and have a small tie-to-tie. Then Prime Minister goes and addresses the Knesset, the Israeli parliament. Then in the evening, there's a private dinner for Prime Minister. Prime Minister in the morning tomorrow visits the Yad Vashem Holocaust Memorial. It's a place where Prime Minister had been to in 2017 also. And the fact that he's going again really underscores, and in many ways, this museum really sort of typifies the Israeli nationhood and the kind of sentiment that the Jewish diaspora has for the setting up of Israel in 1940s post the Holocaust. So I think Prime Minister going there again really underscores India's commitment to the existence of Israel as a nation. And then there are delegation level talks. Prime Minister also pays a visit to President Herzog and then wraps up the visit after key announcements are made. Most likely big defense deals. The two sides are trying to put ambition into the relationship of tripling the bilateral trade. There is already a very strong, thriving defense partnership, maybe some announcements there, possibly an upgrade of the strategic partnership to a special privilege partnership. We should look forward to all those things, but Prime Minister landing in Tel Aviv in a couple of hours, and it's a very important, significant strategic partnership, and hence this visit gains that much more significance, goes without saying, the backdrop of prevailing tensions in West Asia, adding another dimension of geopolitical significance to Prime Minister Modi's Israel visit as it pans out over the next 2 days.
Absolutely, Abhishek. And this is a very important partnership, especially when you talk about the united stand against terrorism. We have already seen JWC talking about how India and Israel stand together against terrorism. And we also have the hexagon of alliances, which was announced by Benjamin Netanyahu. So a very important partnership there as well. And of course, other talks related to IMEC and other groupings as well.
You are absolutely right. So you can perhaps, as I mentioned, Prime Minister Netanyahu himself announced the visit of Prime Minister Modi. And while mentioning that in his cabinet, he spoke of the hexagon of alliances in West Asia that Prime Minister Netanyahu is trying to build. And it's interesting that he's talking about hexagon of alliances in West Asia, and it includes India, which is not part of West Asia in that grouping. So there is already an I2U2, which is India, Israel, US, UAE, and Prime Minister Netanyahu, perhaps including a couple of more from the region. There have been tremendous changes in West Asia in terms of what has happened in Syria, for example. Also, let's not forget the war, the brief 12-day war that took place between Iran and Israel, and in which United States joined last time, this time perhaps even more comprehensively if it comes to that. And the IMEC corridor, which was conceived during the G20 summit in 2023, has moved tremendously in terms of its execution on the ground, and Israel is part of that. The Haifa port, which where India has a strategic presence and a historical connect. Prime Minister Modi himself visited Haifa port in his last visit in 2017. Is integral to IMEC, which is a corridor connecting India to Europe through Middle East, and the kind of work that has happened on this amid the talk of Abraham Accords 2.0 shaping up, where perhaps at some stage, if not now, immediately because of the kind of tensions prevailing, but in future, if the Saudis really come around and join the Abraham Accords, then you're going to see a smooth execution of IMEC on the ground, and you can expect that when the two leaders meet one-on-one, and then, of course, delegation level talks, substantial movement forward on actualizing IMEC there. That's a geo-economic aspect of the relationship, as I mentioned. But on terrorism, just yesterday, like India and Israel launched their first round of FTA talks in New Delhi, there was a working group on counter-terrorism that also met, and the two sides unequivocally and jointly condemned terror in all its forms and manifestations. Israelis were the earliest ones to really condemn the Pahalgam terror attack, and they minced no words in naming names. And in that sense, and India, of course, from the very first day, has condemned the Hamas terror attacks of October 7. In fact, Prime Minister Netanyahu called Prime Minister Modi after initial reactions and briefed Prime Minister Modi on the build-up to Israeli response back then in October of 2023. And since then, the two leaders have been communicating off and on and speaking on phone over issues of mutual concern. And you can expect some of the chemistry there. Remember, in 2017, we saw those pictures of Prime Minister and both the leaders at the Mediterranean talking about desalination of water, and those pictures had really had certain virality to them. And subsequently, we saw next year, 2018, Prime Minister Netanyahu visited India and Mumbai and New Delhi, and paid his respects at 26/11 Memorial. Also, remember, Israel was one of the targets actually of the of the 26/11 terror attacks. And so I think we're going to see this bilateral visit really upgrade India-Israel relationship. And as I mentioned, the backdrop in which it is happening, it lends that much more heft to the dialogue, to the talks that are going to take place between the two sides as to how to stabilize the West Asian geography, how to strengthen the alliance further. Insofar as defense is concerned, remember, Israeli defense sector has a strong presence in the Indian market, India being a big importer of arms and defense purchases really are peaking sort of post Operation Sindhu. And there you can expect that maybe when we say that there is ambition to triple India-Israel mutual trade from about $3 to $4 billion to say $10 billion or more, defense is going to play a key component. I mean, and of course, when you think of Israel, you fancy defense because Israel has created this perception that they are, or successfully created this perception that they are big on defense, but they are generally big on tech, innovation, cyber-related tech, and in that also there is a lot of cooperation happening between the two sides. Agriculture is another area which the Israelis really love to talk about, and in fact, on the ground, if you look at it, Prime Minister's first visit, in fact, to Israel happened when he was Chief Minister of Gujarat way back in 2006 as part of a chief ministerial delegation led by the then Union Agriculture Minister Sharad Pawar, and there were a couple of other chief ministers. But the manner in which Prime Minister really picked up on the ideas from Israel and implemented them in Gujarat, for example, by way of more crop per drop philosophy, which was essentially picking up from Israeli agri-tech with a specific focus on drip irrigation, and the manner in which that has really paid dividends for Indian agriculture, not just in Gujarat. Subsequently, when Prime Minister came to New Delhi from his Gujarat days, transitioning as Prime Minister from Chief Minister, the way it was made integral to the Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana, I think there are so many areas in which the two nations really work closely for the mutual benefit of the societies and the people. And you're going to see an enduring upgrade in that overall cooperation and existing relationship during the next 2 days as Prime Minister lands in Tel Aviv and engages with the Israeli leadership.
All right. Thank you so much, Abhishek, our senior executive editor there, giving us all the latest in Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Israel. It's a 2-day visit, a very important partnership between India and Israel with cooperation on different fronts.